Hey guys, Mustached Tom here to review Sonic the Hedgehog 3. So, it has been quite the long journey from Sonic's initial infamous first trailer where everyone on the internet got on there and said, "This is terrible, rework this," and the team behind it delayed the movie and indeed reworked Sonic. That being one of the first times in history, at least in movie making, where the people behind a thing got a lot of criticisms and they actually listened. And In Fold came out a pretty good movie. Now, I have said this about Sonic the Hedgehog 1. It's a bad adaptation, but it's a good movie. After all, Sonic, if you follow him, doesn't take his journeys on Earth. His journeys are on his home planet of Mobius. So, yeah, like, his entire movie, if they wanted to be accurate to the video games, would just be on that planet with Tails. And would probably be well served better as an animated movie, but here we are in live action and dealing with humans. But overall, I'd still say that the first movie was good. Now, when the second movie came out, there was the consistent complaints about the wedding scene. We all know the one if you've seen Sonic the Hedgehog 2. This whole, sidetrack of the humans doing this whole bit, and it's, it goes on for quite a bit, too. Quite a bit of a subplot, and an unnecessary one at that. So, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, even from its trailer, seemed to pick up on the ideas that this whole wedding thing and the human thing, if they are gonna, they kind of have to continue with the humans. They've been there now since the first two movies, so how do they actually utilize the humans in the story this time around? Seems to be what they actually learned from the second movie, and they utilized that correctly. But I'm here to review the whole movie, and we'll dive into each point directly. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and spoil something right off the bat, because I know that people don't generally like lingering in my videos for that long, I guess. Scourge does not make an appearance in this movie. He is not the cameo appearance at the end of the movie, and to me, Scourge continues to be the best antagonist in the Sonic universe. Shadow a close second, if anything. But, of course, Scourge being a comic book character and the copyright shenanigans that have forbade him from appearing in any video game continues to unfold upon the movies as well. And I feel like if anyone should be the antagonist in Sonic 4, it shouldn't be Metal Sonic. It should be Scourge. And I'll get to that later on if you want to stick around to why I think Scourge would be the perfect villain for Sonic 4. And I mean perfect in what they achieve here in Sonic 3. So, let's dive into the details. So the movie starts off on Prison Island, which is in Japan, where these two guards are watching over Shadow. And a pretty early rendition of Live and Learn, for those Super Sonic fans, plays on the guitar. And we see flashes of Maria coming toward Shadow the Hedgehog. So they try to prep her up as Shadow is waking up from his hibernation or whatever stasis he's in. And he fights them off using his teleportation-based speed. As you saw in the trailer, he runs on the water to get to the land. Then we cut to the logo. Meanwhile, we now cut to Team Sonic, and they're preparing for a little race. When Sonic loses, he's wondering what the heck happened, but it ends up being these little holograms likely made from Tails, uh, with Tails, Knuckles, and Tom and Maddie, I believe her name is, celebrating his 1 year anniversary here on Earth. So they find Sonic's OG cave. And he's told by Tom that the passing of the Claw, I forget the name of the owl, passing away didn't change what was in Sonic's heart, which is what separates him from Shadow. Which, in the context of this movie, does make him a good antagonist, that connection. And that's exactly why I would pick Scourge, but I'll continue to dive even deeper into why Scourge would be the perfect villain or antagonist for Sonic in Sonic 4, but again, with the copyright, I doubt that they'll ever bypass that nonsense. Anyways, so apparently Shadow has been trapped, or has been gone for 50 years, and Shadow gets surrounded by the military coming in. Then we cut back to Team Sonic, where a camping while they're trying to camp, and a helicopter comes to find them. Gun asks for their help. So they portal into Japan using the portal rings that they have available. Once seeing the explosion, which you see in the trailer, the trio drop down and see Shadow. He's the one who walks up to them and points out that they arrived on a gunship, and he already has his issues with Gun, after all. So Shadow bikes and guns up, and he tries to shoot at Sonic with the laser gun that he has. So he does get to shoot the gun. I thought that was just going to be for looks. So that's cool that he actually gets to use it a little bit, even though he misses, clearly. And when I saw the trailer, and I saw Shadow doing the Akira bike slide, I thought that was the end of the movie. No, this happens right now, where Shadow does that, and Sonic goes to confront him in the air. So that's actually in the first section of the movie, so that was a bit of a interesting, like, oh, okay. But, obviously, Shadow owns them, as you see in that trailer. They go to the Chow Garden to recoup, where they make the obvious Tails looks like Pikachu joke, and that's actually left in the movie, which is cool. And there, Commander Walters meets with them to talk about the ultimate life form, that being Shadow. But their little meet and greet is interrupted by a side missile attack. But during their attack, a strange human biker guy helps them out and leaves. Sonic is given this key thing from Walter, and they go out to chase Shadow. They more so follow the biker at this point, actually. And it turns out to be Stone from the previous two movies. And he shows them that it wasn't Eggman responsible, Dr. Eggman, as he's now known as, who is now in the slump watching these soap dramas. So, obviously, we have the bit where Stone preps him up to get him to back into the groove of things. He takes Stone's, shirt to, finish his suit. That being Eggman's suit. And interestingly enough, because this kind of alludes to something, Tails is the one to suggest to team up, since they already have, the Eggmen have the given location of where they can find this Shadow. So they want to work with them. But it was Tails' idea. So as I mentioned, this is actually where the whole like bit of like him reworking himself comes from. Meanwhile, Shadow goes to this location that is pretty worn down, and he gets more of these flashbacks throughout the movie. This one where Maria uh, and a young Walters, several years prior, guides her to her room, where she spots Shadow and befriends him pretty quickly. So we see her hanging out with Shadow from that time on moving forward, and we get a little bit of a montage of her teaching him how to dance, and her have him speed her around, and so on and so forth. And they look up at the stars, seeing their significance. But Shadow sees the way that the scientists look at him. And we cut back to the present with him touching the tube. And Gerald sees them. Gerald Robotnik, that being. So Team Sonic team up with Eggman and Stone, as I mentioned, when they arrive at the location. They split up. Knuckles is solo, and he gets freaked out by Casper via flashback. Shadow finds Knuckles first. Meanwhile, Tails is speaking with Stone about his friendship with Sonic, because Stone interprets their, camaraderie as somewhat of this, as almost the same thing as what he has with Eggman, so he sees it more as not even a friendship necessarily, but that is what Tails presented as, in just being a better team in that regard too. But I digress. So, obviously, Shadow finds them next, and then Shadow attacks Sonic last. So Eggman is left alone, and he comes across Gerald. And they break the fourth wall, saying that they're the same actor, and they look at the screen when they say that they're played by the same actor, because they are, Jim Carrey. Eggman tests Gerald just to see if he's truly his grandpa for reals, and he does end up passing the test. And we see Gerald does the very same thing, where he licks the shadow quill that he has possessed over. So we then see that Team Sonic is now tied up. And Shadow still wants to attack Gun, because he knows that they're the ones responsible for Maria's passing away. And they get to the key that Sonic had possessed, but there's one more, and it's in the Gun headquarters, which is in London. So, Robotnik's team heads out while Shadow preps his little thing. You see that in the trailer. But we also see Sonic grab a ring from Tails, and then he does that trick kick shot where it pops in front of them and they are able to escape. So, the Robotniks are now hanging out in VR. That's where the little Christmas scene comes from. It's actually all in VR. So I think that bit actually has a lot more, it makes a lot more sense now that it was all kind of like this illusion of them trying to get along or whatever. And we see Stone be the first to leave it. Meanwhile, we cut back to Tom and Maddie's house, where another one of Sonic's themes begins to play. I'm always going to call these out because I think having Sonic movies fully comprised of Sonic songs is the way to go. I mean, there are songs in this that aren't Sonic related in the movie, so that is what it be. So yes, as I addressed, Tom and Maddie get involved with the journey, but now they're getting involved with the Sonic side of things instead of this weird wedding side plot. So the humans are getting involved in the anthropomorphic animals stories, which is probably what Sonic 2 should have done to make it more masterful in that way instead of all of this nonsense of a wedding. But I digress. So Tom and Maddie are now going to sneak into the gun headquarters because they want to get the other key so that the other team doesn't get access to both the keys that they need. So they use one of Tails' gadgets, which allows them to change their entire look, so they're able to look like the two from the second movie, the newlyweds, as it were. And so they gain access to the server through the rigmarole of looking like who they need to at when they need to. They have a little bit of a goof there. But then, they try to attach the USB that Tails offered them. It doesn't work the initial first time, and then they blow on it, Tom does, and then puts it back in, and it works. Now, this is a callback to the Sega cartridge, obviously, when you would put it in, and then if it didn't work, you would blow on it, and then when you put it in again, it would work for whatever reason. And then it's claimed here that the 90s was the best era. And that is a double sort of like nod of like, yeah, a lot of 90s people would agree with that, obviously, myself included. But not only that, it alludes to when Sonic came out in the 1990s. Or, the game did anyway. So anyways, Tails hacks into Stone, where Stone is, the little egg device that he's in with Shadow, and they're watching some soup drama. They're just like waiting for the Eggmen to do their bit. But speaking of, they're working their way on the inside. An Eggman tosses his own grandpa into this laser field, only to see that their suits that he designed are, like, they emit the lasers away when they touch them, even their heads included, I guess, are a part of that. And then they proceed to do what is in every Sonic movie at this point, I guess it's a mandatory dance sequence. I don't understand this. It was in Sonic 1. Jim Carrey did the whole dance bit where, he's dancing to the thing where I think it's when he's introduced, right? And then in Sonic 2, there's the bit where they're like, I don't know if it was Switzerland or some other area, and there's like they're in the danger area, and Sonic Tails do the little dance competition thing, and now this, where Eggman and Grandpa Eggman dance their way across the field. So now it has been in every Sonic movie, so I suspect that there's going to be some sort of weird dance number in Sonic 4. It seems to be the mandatory dance sequence. I don't know, but here we are. I'm pretty sure the younger audience still loves those bits. But I digress. So, Sonic moves in to try to get to into the field space, because the HQ is like blocked off by this red field you can see it's closing back up, and we see Tails save Sonic by throwing him faster into the field, into the headquarters, and he says his catchphrase, "Gotta go fast." The first time, I think I don't remember if he does even say that in the first two movies. I guess he just picked that up now, maybe? I don't recall him saying that in the first two movies. I could be misremembering, but I digress. At any rate, so the Lady Commander was expecting this sort of move, and we see Knuckles move in. He's the last to move in. He's able to smash through the barrier. And through it, he makes the gravity go on and off. And and the Eggman and the Commander Lady go racing for the second key. She grabs it, and we see Sonic desperately smash this debris to save Tom from a pretty grisly getting squashed by debris fate. He then disguises himself when they're getting out of there as Walter to get access to said given second key. But Shadow arrives and punches the fuck out of Tom on the chest, and Sonic arrives. And so we see Sonic crying over Tom and his condition, and this is where we see Shadow having visions of Maria and his loss. And he claims, as he did in the trailer, just mismatched in where it is, that he had to do what he had to do. So Shadow gets the card, and we see after the fact Stone crawling up from the device that he was in. So, Stone calls Eggman to say that he shouldn't trust Gerald, that he has this alternative plan. Now, Eggman has made his opposition and his antagonistic motives clear. He wants to take over Earth. Keep that in mind. So the ship comes up anyway. And Tom is sent away via the hospital. This drives Sonic to act in desperation and wants to use the Emerald. This causes the friction between Sonic and Knuckles, because Knuckles was tasked to hide the Emerald, and they almost get in a fight. This is probably my favorite part of the film, and I wish it was a little bit longer, quite frankly. Though I do think it still carries out what it needs to. And what I would want for Sonic 4 is for that very test, but for Sonic and Tails, because by God, does Tails need something to do in these movies. And, like, again, Scourge would be perfect for Sonic versus Tails, and I'll get to why that is. Anyway, so obviously Wade is the actual one guarding the Emerald, for whatever reason, the Master Emerald. It's surprisingly small, and the emeralds, when they deattach, are even smaller. Obviously, that's like the one thing that's different from the Master Emerald in the original context. That thing was massive in the original games. Like, it took Eggman having like this magnet thing and then plucking it out, this massive Master Emerald. And now it's like this tiny gem that splits off into even tinier 7 gems that allow Sonic to go super. But anyway, so obviously Sonic goes there and goes super. So Shadow is now starting to have a little self-doubt, asking if this is what Mario would have wanted to Gerald Robotnik. And we get one of the final flashbacks, and we get to see the fate of Maria. And it's, what everyone was expecting. Now, the gun is misfired, and it hits like these containers that like explode in front of them. And in that process, Maria dies. Now, I've never played the Sonic that this is based off of, Sonic Adventure 2 or 1, I believe it is. Apparently she just gets shot. I think this is actually a little bit better, if you ask me. Like this sort of misunderstanding, but it's still a miss shot in a way. So it's sort of doing, it's sort of still doing it to a degree, but I think it's actually better this way. Because Shadow, Scourge, you see how much I like him over Shadow? But Shadow wouldn't know that, obviously. Anyway. So, we cut back to the present, where Shadow also powers up due to him briefly pushing away the emeralds and the superpowers away from Sonic, but then they both power up to super level. And then Gerald says, and he goes pretty dark with it, about what he wants versus what Eggman wants. Remember, Eggman wanted conquering. Gerald wants to kill everyone. He wants mass extinction for what happened to Maria, including himself. Like, talk about just total black pill. That is what Gerald wants. It's just full extinction, full goneness. And not even Eggman wanted to go that far. So he derives 10 minutes for them for the beam to, prep up. Meanwhile, Super Sonic hits Shadow, or Super Shadow, and they land back on Earth. This is, again, where they both go super, and they have their super fight. So Eggman tries to stop Geralt due to their differences. And Shadow argues over Sonic about why he left his family, and his revenge leading him down this path, which I don't think Shadow necessarily even is, like, thinking about his own revenge in that moment, and I think it actually really fits to lambast Sonic, at least in this moment. And he blasts them onto the moon. And Sonic has an opportunity to try to literally kill Shadow here. I almost said Scourge again. But he thinks about his own, what Tom told him earlier on in the movie about his heart not being changed. So he decides to spare Shadow and even turns down his superpower. And then goes on to talk about Just Talk Wins the Day, where he talks about there are no winners in revenge. Now, obviously, your revenge can have a lot of different context, and I do think that exploring it in a way where revenge is actually catalyzed into this heroic deed after all is an interesting way that I've never seen revenge used in a storyline, to my knowledge. That's what I did for my first D&D campaign character, and I think it worked out really well. Anyway, I digress. And he talks about the emotion that is stronger than pain, which is what Shadow has been dealing with for the past 50 years, which is love. That love that Maria had for him, that connection, it's still there, it's still present, as Sonic claims. And the last thing Sonic offers is that they always have a choice. This concludes that Shadow will work with Sonic, and of course, what better way to cap off the Sonic 3 movie with the reinvigorated version of Live and Learn, which is an iconic Sonic song, I guess, pops off as they go super again. And this time they're going to team up. While Eggman and Gerald continue their fight, the Jones are sent out to do their dirty work outside, and they do the Shadow and Sonic do their double-cross pose as they're fighting against all the robots, and the audience went nuts for that pose. Gerald sends Eggman, or tries to send Eggman into space, but Tails catches him, and Knuckles gets up there. Now, what those two were up to is a little bit confusing, but they're here now, I guess, so that's a little bit of a mystery, but whatever. And, Gerald gets killed by them by getting sent into a zapper, and he just into nothingness. So that's how he literally dies. And then they try to redirect the laser, while Sonic and Shadow are on the outside, using their energies to have it prevent it from hitting Earth. So Sonic passes out first, and then because he went super first, so that fits the timeline. And Knuckles sends Tails after him, and then Tails begins to falter as the oxygen, obviously, how high up they are. And then Knuckles is the one to save the trio with the ring as well. While Shadow is still up there, holding the device the other way. And that's where you see it cut the moon. Which would probably doom us in real Earth, but here we are in this fantasy world where that's totally fine, I guess. We have a moment where Tails saves Sonic again. Or, that attempt to, and then Knuckles, as I mentioned, does so. So they make their way down. So Eggman gets blown up as he sends his final message to Stone about, their friendship and whatever. And that's where he said, since I can't conquer the world, I might as well save it. So that's his final moment as he gets caught up in the explosion of the ship that he's on blows up. But Shadow's caught in it as well. So we cut away to some time later, and Team Sonic is back at the camping trip. Tom is recuperated for however long, and then Sonic, during their race, overshoots, this is the after credit sequence, his location, and is introduced to the cameo for the prepping up for Sonic 4, Metal Sonic. But and there are several Metal Sonics surrounding him, so he's getting ready to deal with them. In comes a hammer out of the distance, and a hooded figure takes off the hood, and it's Amy Rose. In many of Sonic's, newer iterations anyways, Sonic's crush, as it were. She fawns over him, and the after the final credits shows that Shadow is obviously still alive. So yeah, pretty fun after credit sequences, and that it's been already told that Sonic 4 has already been greenlit. So why? I mean, first and foremost, I think that this movie is easily an 8 or a 9 out of 10. This is so fun. This is easily the best movie in the trilogy, I think. They have finally found their footing here. The first movie was solid while being a poor adaptation, but then moving from that, they kind of faltered in the second movie, but there was still plenty of fun outside of the wedding sequence. I don't want that to ruin all of the rest of the Sonic 2, because I do think there's really cool stuff in there, especially the finale of Sonic 2, because that is the first time he goes super, and that was a pretty hype moment back then. So to see Sonic and Shadow teaming up, another hype moment in Sonic 3, them coming to terms with their differences and stuff like that. So, which brings us to the confirmation of Sonic 4. And why do I keep pushing Scourge as the main villain, not even Metal Sonic? I think, Amy dealing with the Metal Sonics that arrive, I think that bit's fun, don't get me wrong, but, to me that signaled, that they were defeated in that moment, so why not have a new villain for Sonic 4? And I thought, what better way to finally get rid of that copyright nonsense and let Scourge appear in Sonic 4 and be the best antagonist Sonic has ever had to date. Even better than Shadow, which is a crazy thing to say because I know a lot of people appreciate Shadow. Like, don't get me wrong, Shadow is still my second favorite antagonist. But Scourge just did something that I don't think I'd never thought I'd appreciate seeing, which in the comic, I've read it, he made Sonic and Tails fight, which is exactly what I feel like they need to do in the fourth movie, is push their relationship, because Sonic and Knuckles here in the third one almost had that clashing of the emerald, that moment. And I figure what better way to follow that up with a even deeper rivalry, or, you know, even if it's a temporary one, between Sonic and Tails, and the catalyst of that being Scourge. Now, what caused that? Now, Scourge, for those who haven't read the comic book, sorry, tangent, but I love this comic issue, it's one of my favorites. Scourge looked identical to Sonic. So he was even closer to looking like Sonic than even Shadow did. So much so that other people thought he was Sonic for a time. He looked that much like Sonic. Now, the one bit of, like, thing that I would add to, like, make a callback to a completely different movie, I think this would be so cool. So I have this whole fan canon idea for Scourge, where, like, he's recognized as a hero even on Mobius at this point in Sonic 4. So this, you know, random animal sees Scourge, who looks like Sonic currently, because that's the bit. So he's like, oh, hey, Sonic, come take a picture with me. And he's the one, the fan is the one who has the jacket, the cool jacket that Scourge has. So he's like, oh, come take the picture. He's like, oh, you have a cool jacket, let me put that on for the picture. So he gives him he gives Scourge the iconic jacket that he wears, the flame jacket that he has. So he puts that on, and then they take the picture, and then Scourge gets ready to leave with the jacket still on, and then the fan's like, hey, what you're taking my jacket, and then he leaves with the jacket doing the mean thing, and now, you know, creating that difference between Sonic and Scourge. And the bit that I would emphasize for Scourge is that he, because he looked identical to Sonic, and since, you know, Mobians would be appreciative of Sonic as this hero figure even on their planet, even though they've been, you know, on Earth all this time, like their I don't know, their heroics have passed over the worlds or whatever. I don't know, something to, like, allude to the idea that, like, the worlds are connecting or something or whatever. So, you know, Scourge is getting this recognition that he doesn't feel like he's deserved, and now here could be the bit, you know, you could do the bit where he's like, he uses the word in, you know, Sonic's Shadow, the name of, well, Shadow, and then you could have Shadow in the scene, so you have all three of them now, Shadow in the scene, he says that Shadow's there, he's like, oh, my bad, like, oh, poor choice of words, I don't know, some comedic bit with Shadow's name there, I don't know, like, that's where my brain goes for a joke, so my comedy is poor, I guess, I don't know, anyway. So, from that point, you know, with Scourge still looking like Sonic, obviously later down the line, a female enters the picture, and it wasn't, you know, it wasn't Amy Rose, it was a character, this Vixen character, I don't remember her name, unfortunately, and it's a character that Tails fell in love with, pretty quickly, just looking at her, like, early crush. So you have two ladies, the one that, you know, Amy has the thing for Sonic, and now we have, comparatively, Tails to this girl that he likes. But then you have Scourge, right? See, I'm connecting all the threads there, right? You have Scourge now picking up on that, using his identically, his identical nature of looking like Sonic to flirt with this vixen as he did in the comic. That's literally what he does, and he gets the girl, by the way. And Tails sees this, and he's, he looks like Sonic, Scourge still does, so obviously the image Tails still has is of that, is this rivalry now that Sonic has, like, stolen the love of his life, and they went off together. So Tails goes to Sonic, and then he confronts Sonic by fighting him. And then the revelation comes a little later, obviously. So this is where I would change the lore, or, Knuckles. This is where I would take what was from Sonic 6 and adjust it to fit the fourth movie. Knuckles, seeing how, the Master Emerald was just used in this way, and he felt very conflicted about it, he decides to re-hide the Master Emerald. See, I'm considering this movie in mind, and he decides to put it in Mobius, and he finds another Echidna. And that's a rarity, a relative in the comic book, if you don't remember. That's the Echidna that Scourge would come to find, because Scourge was the one who came into contact with the Master Emerald at that point in time. He finds it, and he confronts this Echidna, whose name I also don't remember from the comic book, but he was a relative of Knuckles, is what I remember. Anyway, so Scourge in this Echidna fight, and that's where he gets his 3 scars from, is that fight during, with this Echidna. So that's what would happen in the movies. He would get those 3 marks across his chest. To further distinguish himself, he would have the jacket by this point, but still be blue, but now have the scars due to the fight, and now he has the jacket, which he stole from this fan. So now he has 2 distinguishing things from Sonic. And then he makes contact with the Master Emerald, and then, that's what turns him green, and his eyes blue. So he's mirrored from Sonic, because Sonic's eyes are green and he's blue. So obviously Scourge is now green, and that's actually kept permanent. His green color, his green fur is permanent, unlike how the other Sonic characters change back. So I don't know how you would justify that, because most characters' furs, the Sonic characters' furs change back after a time limit. His does not, for whatever reason. In fact, his super form is an even different color, too, on top of that. And, now that he's green, has the jacket, has the scar, he has the full look down, with one exception: him becoming a king of Mobius. That's what he did in the comic book. To me, not only did he get Sonic and Tails to fight, he accomplished his goal. He was one of the first antagonists to accomplish his goal. That's why he's one of my that is why he's my favorite Sonic antagonist. He accomplished his goal. He became king of, I think it was like Mobius Reverse Planet or whatever, but he became a king. Like, that's what he wanted to do. That's what he set out to do, and he did it. And then, later on, Sonic, teams up with all these other characters. I have no clue who they are. There are other versions of, Sonic, like this Robin Hood Sonic look-alike, and Amy, and this other version of Amy, and all these other characters, and, they have, a super fight, and blah, 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 and then eventually they resolve, and they team up Sonic and Scourge, just like how Sonic and Shadow would, as well. So yeah, I think that Scourge, again, would be so perfect for Sonic 4, but I know the copyright, and I know that shit sucks. So I don't know what they're planning for Sonic 4, but I'm not interested. I'm not interested if it's not Scourge. I'm sorry. I think I'm gonna skip out on Sonic 4. Well, still have to watch it for reviewing purposes, but my heart's not going to be in it. And I don't know, I don't think it can live up to my expectations of what 3 was able to accomplish. And, you know, I don't know what antagonists they could use, if not Scourge. Like, I feel like some of Sonic's other antagonists in some of the other games, they just, like, I haven't played them myself, so they're not memorable to me. And I just feel like, again, that push is what sets Scourge apart from me, though. That's what makes him so distinct from every other antagonist that I've seen from the Sonic universe. Even his biggest rivals of Shadow and Eggman himself. As again, he did something none of them were able to do. He got Sonic to fight Tails, or rather, Tails to fight Sonic. So I feel like that moment is something that fans would absolutely, like, lose their shit over, is seeing Sonic fight Tails. And, you know, I would suspect that not everyone would be a fan of that, but I mean, I think that it would fit what just happened in Sonic 3 again. So, anyways, where this movie lies is an 8 out of 10. Both Eggmen are dead, presumably for real this time. Jim Carrey had retired, so I guess that fully just fits everything. Again, Sonic 4 has been confirmed, but, like, is the whole bit just going to be Sonic versus Metal Sonic? Like, that, to me, that's not enough. I'm sorry. Metal Sonic is not good enough. He's not. He's not a good antagonist. I mean, like, we saw Amy clear out all the Metal Sonics that were there in the middle credit sequence. So, like, what? Like, what's the point of him being the main antagonist if he got taken out anyway? I don't know. So, anyway, that's my review for Sonic 3. Fantastic video game trilogy. I don't know if Sonic 4 will succeed or not, but we'll wait and see, I suppose. But if they do, if they somehow got the copyright thing to deal with, let's super fantasize, right? And they get Scourge. God, would I want to voice the character? I know that they would probably get some super duper famous actor like they did with Keanu Reeves. And you know what? Keanu Reeves did a good job. But I would love to do Scourge, because I feel like he would do a lot of the Sonic bits. Do them like the iconic Sonic, like one of his previous like voices. So that's sort of what I would imitate, but add that grindiness to Scourge that I feel like he would have, and I feel like that would be the ideal Scourge voice. So it'd be like, you know, he would use the very iconic, you know, some of the other iconic Sonic lines, like, "It's spinning wind time, got a juice, here we go." You know, the very Jaleel White, when he was Sonic in the 1990 shows, those lines. I feel like he would carry on some of those, and then, like, as he becomes Scourge, like, properly throughout the movie, more and more like him, his voice would, like, deepen a little bit, and it would go down a little bit, like, "Kneel, loser," like even deeper than that. Like, obviously I'm not gonna try it to my best ability right now, but somewhere in that range, I feel like, is where Scourge would be in terms of voice. But anyways, my diatribe is over. That's my review for Sonic 3, and if you end up enjoying it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers, second to my PayPal where you can help support me on my channel directly, and third to my Discord server. You can join Collab Shield, do all that cool stuff for free, and until next time everyone, bye bye.